He wanted to dream a man. He wanted to dream him in minute entirety and impose him on reality. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. We are talking about an entirely impossible, supernatural purpose here. Imagine dedicating every waking, or actually every sleeping moment of your life to pulling a human being completely out of your own mind and forcing them into the physical world. It's a staggering concept, and honestly, we need to dive right into this because it's absolutely mesmerizing. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're stepping directly into the unanimous night of a ruined temple to explore Jorge Luis Borges' haunting masterpiece, The Circular Ruins. We are going to follow a taciturn wizard who is attempting the ultimate act of creation, and it leads to a revelation that will completely pull the rug out from under you. So, let's get started. Welcome to Ani's BookVerse. Read, think, discover. The story kicks off with this gray, taciturn man arriving at a circular enclosure deep in the jungle. Now, this isn't just any old ruin. It's a temple that has been totally devoured by ancient fires and profaned by the miasmal jungle around it. Its gods are dead. But for our wizard, this uninhabited space, it's absolutely perfect. It contains a minimum of the visible world, which means no distractions. He has one single, invincible intent, and his immediate overriding obligation is simply to sleep. He is literally consecrating his entire body and soul to the sole task of dreaming. Obviously, creating life from a dream isn't something you're going to master on the very first try. At first, his dreams were entirely chaotic, but eventually they took on a distinct dialectic structure, basically a complex system of debate and questioning. He projected himself into a circular amphitheater, actually quite similar to the ruins temple he was physically sleeping in, and he began lecturing to these massive clouds of taciturn, illusory students. He was teaching them anatomy, cosmography, and magic. What he was doing here was effectively holding auditions for reality. He was desperately seeking a soul worthy of participating in the actual universe. And he quickly realized that the passive students, the ones who just blindly accepted his doctrine, they were never going to ascend to the level of true individuals. So he dismissed the vast student body and kept only one, this sharp-featured, sometimes intractable boy who actually dared to challenge him. But then, disaster strikes. The wizard wakes up one day feeling like he's emerging from a viscous desert. The dream state is just gone. The student is gone. He spends this terrifying period completely unable to dream, weeping tears of anger in a perpetual agonizing vigil. And this perfectly illustrates the sheer, crushing weight of what he's attempting. Borges gives us this incredible line pointing out that modeling the incoherent and vertiginous matter of dreams is literally the most difficult task a man could undertake. It is, quote, much more difficult than weaving a rope out of sand or coining the faceless wind. It's an impossible poetic struggle. He realizes his first method of trying to educate a phantom into existence was just a massive hallucination. He needs a new, far more methodical approach. So the crucial turning point is this massive pivot in his strategy. He purifies himself in the river, worships the planetary gods, and begins all over again. But this time, he does it entrail by entrail. He starts with a single, beating garnet heart. For 14 lucid nights, he dreams only of this heart, observing it, perfecting it. Then, very deliberately, he moves on. It takes him an entire year just to craft the skeleton and the eyelets. And the hardest part? The innumerable hair. Step by agonizing step, he meticulously crafts an entire young man out of the fabric of his own dreams. But despite all this unimaginable effort, when the man is finally complete, he's basically just an atom of dust. He's asleep. He can't stand, he can't talk, and he can't even open his eyes. The wizard has successfully built a body, sure, but he hasn't been able to spark the actual flame of life within it. He is so utterly crushed that he almost destroys his work in despair. But instead, he decides to turn to the ancient, forgotten deities of the ruined temple. And this is where the magic truly takes hold. The wizard throws himself at the feet of the temple's effigy. In his dream, the statue comes alive. It's this terrifying, multiple god made of tigers, colts, bulls, and storms. This god reveals its name is Fire. And Fire agrees to magically animate the dreamed phantom. But there is a catch. Fire decrees that once the boy is instructed in the rites, the wizard has to send him downstream to another ruined temple to glorify the god. Fire promises that to everyone else in the entire world, except Fire itself and the wizard, this boy will appear to be a completely normal man of flesh and blood. Now, what happens next represents a profoundly heartbreaking act of parental love. the wizard spends 2 genuinely happy years teaching his new son, all while secretly dreading their inevitable separation. When the time finally comes for the boy to be born into reality and sent away, the wizard does something unthinkable. So that the boy will never know he's a phantom, so that he will truly believe himself to be a man just like any other, the wizard destroys all of the son's memories of his apprenticeship. He wipes his mind completely clean and sends him out into the world. Years pass, and we see this really stark contrast emerge. The wizard remains in the ruins. His life's great purpose is finally fulfilled. He lives in a kind of twilight ecstasy, even though he can feel his own perceptions growing pallid. He actually realizes that his own soul is physically diminishing in order to nourish the distant existence of his absent son. The son, meanwhile, is way downstream, actively carrying out identical rites, completely unaware of his true origin. But this peaceful, fading twilight is abruptly shattered. One midnight, 2 oarsmen arrive at the circular ruins. They bring news to the wizard. They tell him of a charmed man in a temple to the north, a man who is somehow capable of walking on fire without burning himself at all. Instantly, the wizard remembers the promise of the god. Fire is the only creature on earth that knows the sun is a phantom, and therefore fire cannot harm him. At first, this is a comforting thought, but it very quickly twists into an agonizing torment. The wizard is suddenly gripped by this intense fear. What if his son meditates on this abnormal privilege? What if he figures out that he isn't a real man, but a mere simulacrum, an empty copy, just a projection of another man's dreams? The wizard feels that this would be an incomparable humiliation, just an absolute madness for his son to have to endure. While the wizard is spiraling in this total existential dread for his child, the environment around him begins to shift menacingly. Forewarnings of destruction start to appear. After a really long drought, a remote cloud shows up. The sky takes on this strange, visceral rose color, like the color of leopards' gums. Clouds of smoke begin rusting the metal of the nights, and wild animals start fleeing in absolute panic. What happened centuries ago to this exact temple is repeating itself. The sanctuary of the god of fire is being destroyed by fire once again. In a dawn utterly devoid of birds, the end finally arrives. The wizard sees the concentric fire licking the ancient walls of his circular ruin. For just a fleeting moment, he considers running, maybe taking refuge in the water. But he stops. He understands that his time is simply over. Death has finally come to crown his old age and absolve him from his arduous, magical labors. Accepting his fate, he doesn't run. Instead, with a quiet, solemn dignity, he walked toward the sheets of flame. He steps directly into the inferno, completely ready to be consumed, ready for the pain and the absolute end of his existence. But then, the impossible happens. The flames, they do not bite his flesh. They caress him. They flood him completely, but there is no heat. There is no combustion. He is standing entirely engulfed in roaring fire, and he is completely unharmed. In that suspended, fiery moment, a massive cascade of emotions hits him all at once. Borges describes it so incredibly powerfully, with relief, with humiliation, with terror. I mean, think about what he was just fearing for his son a moment ago, the terrifying realization of being unreal. And here is the astonishing, devastating climax of the entire story. In those flames that totally refuse to burn him, he understands the ultimate truth. He also was an illusion. Someone else was dreaming him. All of his exhaustive efforts, all those countless nights spent crafting a man entrail by entrail, his entire sense of reality, it was all just a dream within a dream. He is the very simulacrum he feared his son would become. He, too, is just a dream. It's an ending that literally leaves you breathless, right? It totally recontextualizes every single thing we just learned. The circular ruins aren't just a physical place in a jungle. They represent the infinite, circular nature of creation and reality itself, which leaves us with a final, echoing question. If the creator himself is merely a dream, whose dream are we?